The Man in the Iron Mask. Identity, conspiracy, and political intrigue in Louis XIV's France. Welcome to the Empire of Secrets. Every episode we peel back the cover on history's strangest mysteries. From lost cities and secret files to sightings that refuse to be explained. We follow the evidence, question the official story, and tell the stories that textbooks skip. Ready to go past the surface? Let's dive in. For centuries, one of history's most haunting questions has lingered over the glittering age of Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. Who was the man in the Iron Mask? It's a mystery that has captivated writers, historians, and conspiracy theorists alike. A story of secrecy, betrayal, and power at the heart of one of Europe's most magnificent courts. The image is unforgettable. A prisoner locked away in the darkest cells of the Bastille, his face hidden behind a mask. An object so strange, so symbolic, that it transformed a nameless man into a living myth. Was he a fallen noble? A disgraced general? The twin brother of the king himself? Or was he something even more dangerous? A secret that could have shattered the very foundation of the French monarchy. Tonight, we're diving deep into the world of Louis XIV, a world of spies, coded letters, and hidden prisons, to trace the truth, the lies, and the legend of the man in the Iron Mask. The story begins in the late 1600s, during the absolute rule of King Louis XIV, the Sun King. Louis reigned for over 70 years, the longest of any European monarch. His court at Versailles was a masterpiece of control, a dazzling illusion of gold and etiquette designed to keep the nobility loyal and the people in awe. But behind that glittering facade, there were secrets, whispered plots, hidden enemies, and prisons where inconvenient people simply disappeared. And among those forgotten prisoners, there was one whose fate would become immortal. His first known appearance in the historical record came in 1669, in a letter written by the French Minister of War, the Marquis de Louvois. It mentions a mysterious prisoner under the custody of a man named Benigne d'Auvergne de Saint-Mars, the governor of several royal prisons, including the notorious fortress of Pignerol. The order was precise. This prisoner was to be kept under strict secrecy. No one was to speak his name. No one was to see his face. He was to wear a mask at all times. And from that moment, his existence became one of the best guarded secrets of the French crown. The image we all know, the Iron Mask itself, didn't appear until later. Early documents refer to a mask of black velvet, which would have been far more practical. The idea that the mask was made of iron comes from later retellings, but it fit the legend perfectly: cold, inhuman, unbreakable. The story spread through whispers and rumors. People began to wonder, who could possibly deserve such punishment? What crime could be so terrible that even their identity had to be erased? When the prisoner was transferred from one fortress to another, from Pignerol to Exile, to Sainte Marguerite Island, and finally to the Bastille in Paris, the orders remained the same. His face was never to be seen, his name never spoken. The guards treated him with an odd mixture of fear and respect. He was given fine clothes, good food, and polite treatment, far better than most prisoners. But he lived in total isolation. And when he died, in November 1703, his possessions were burned, his cell scrubbed, and his name struck from every record. He was buried under a false name, Marchioli, and the mystery began. For the next 3 centuries, historians and novelists have tried to answer the same question. Who was this man? Over the years, dozens of theories have emerged. Some were reasonable, others fantastical. Let's explore the most enduring ones. One early theory, and perhaps the most famous, claims the masked prisoner was the twin brother of Louis XIV. This idea exploded into popular imagination thanks to Alexandre Dumas, who in 1847 published The Vicomte de Bragelonne, the final part of his Three Musketeers saga. In Dumas's story, the man in the iron mask is Philippe, the secret twin of Louis XIV, hidden away to protect the legitimacy of the throne. It's a perfect piece of historical drama. Identity, power, betrayal, everything readers love. But is there any truth to it? Probably not. There's no record of Louis XIV's mother, Anne of Austria, giving birth to twins. Royal births were public events, witnessed by courtiers precisely to prevent such rumors. Still, Dumas's version was so vivid, so emotionally charged, that it became inseparable from the legend. For many people, even today, the idea of the king's twin remains the definitive version. Other theories focus on political intrigue, real, documented conspiracies from the time. Some historians have suggested that the masked man might have been a disgraced general or high-ranking official, imprisoned for knowing too much. One candidate was Count Ercole Antonio Mattioli, an Italian diplomat who betrayed Louis XIV in a secret political deal. In 1678, Mattioli was negotiating with France over the sale of a strategic fortress, Casale. But he leaked the agreement to other European powers, humiliating the French king. Louis XIV was furious. Mattioli was kidnapped, brought to France, and imprisoned under Saint-Mars's custody. It fits part of the story: the right time, the right jailer, the right secrecy. But Mattioli's name appears in other records, and he seems to have died before the masked prisoner was transferred to the Bastille. Still, for a long time, this theory was popular, and even Voltaire, the great philosopher, believed it. Voltaire himself played a major role in shaping the myth. In 1751, long before Dumas's novel, Voltaire wrote about the mysterious prisoner in his Siècle de Louis XIV. He claimed the man wore an iron mask, was treated with great respect, and was a man of a certain height and pleasing appearance. But Voltaire also hinted, tantalizingly, that the man's identity was a state secret of the highest order, one that could shake the foundations of the kingdom. That line alone launched hundreds of speculations. Voltaire never said outright who the man was, but he clearly wanted his readers to believe the prisoner was someone of royal blood. In the decades that followed, the idea of a masked royal, a hidden prince, a secret heir, became irresistible. Another theory points to Nicolas Fouquet, the powerful superintendent of finances under Louis XIV. Fouquet was one of the most ambitious men in France, rich, brilliant, and proud. In 1661, he threw an extravagant party at his chateau in Vaux-le-Vicomte, a celebration so lavish it allegedly made the young king jealous. Soon after, Fouquet was arrested on charges of embezzlement and treason. He was imprisoned for life under, once again, the supervision of Saint-Mars. Officially, Fouquet died in 1680, but rumors claimed he had lived on in secret, under a new name, perhaps even under a mask. The timeline doesn't quite fit, but the overlap of names, prisons, and personalities kept the connection alive. And from a symbolic point of view, it made sense. Fouquet represented everything Louis XIV despised: independent wealth, independent power, and the ability to outshine the king himself. To the public, the idea that Louis had literally hidden away his rival was too satisfying to resist. There were even darker possibilities. Some claimed the masked man was an illegitimate son of Anne of Austria, or of Cardinal Mazarin, the king's powerful advisor. Others speculated he was a valet or servant who'd seen or heard something that could expose the king. A few went further, suggesting he was a political prisoner from abroad, perhaps an Englishman, a spy, or a defector. In every version, the mask became a symbol, not of one man's shame, but of absolute power. The mask said, "The king can erase you, body and soul. You can live, eat, and breathe, but you no longer exist." To understand how this could happen, we need to understand Louis XIV's France. The Sun King ruled through spectacle and control. His palace at Versailles wasn't just a home, it was a political theater. Every mirror, every ritual, every bow and gesture reinforced the same message. The king is the center of the universe. In such a system, secrecy wasn't just convenient, it was essential. The king's image had to remain perfect, unquestioned, divine. Any hint of weakness or scandal had to be buried, sometimes literally. And Louis had the tools to do it. His network of spies and informers was unmatched. His ministers managed secret prisons, where prisoners were kept not just in chains, but in silence. The most notorious of these was the Bastille, a fortress that by the late 1600s had become a symbol of royal authority and fear. It's entirely possible that the man in the mask was simply one of many such prisoners. Unlucky, forgotten, erased by bureaucracy and paranoia. But because he wore a mask, because he was treated with respect, because his name was forbidden, his case stood out. And in a time when censorship ruled and rumors were the only free currency, the story spread. There's a strange irony to it. The more the crown tried to suppress the truth, the more powerful the myth became. By the 18th century, the man in the iron mask was no longer a political secret. He was a cultural icon. Writers, philosophers, and revolutionaries all reinterpreted him to suit their own messages. For Voltaire and his Enlightenment peers, the story represented the cruelty and absurdity of absolute monarchy. For later romantics, it became a tragedy, a story of identity lost, of freedom denied. And for revolutionaries in 1789, as they stormed the Bastille, it was proof that tyranny must be destroyed. When the real prison doors were thrown open, people looked for the Iron Mask. But of course, he was long gone. Only the legend remained. Modern historians, digging through archives and letters, have tried to strip away the layers of myth. Most agree that the prisoner did exist. His records appear in official correspondence between ministers, wardens, and Louis XIV himself. But who he was remains uncertain. The strongest evidence points to a man named Eustache d'Auger, a valet or servant involved in sensitive political matters, possibly espionage. D'Auger's name appears repeatedly in Saint-Mars's correspondence. He was arrested in 1669 under mysterious circumstances and placed under exceptional guard. He was forbidden to speak to anyone, except his jailer. Some historians believe d'Auger was connected to scandals involving the French court, perhaps the so-called Affair of the Poisons, a web of witchcraft, murder, and corruption that reached deep into Versailles. Others think he knew state secrets about the king's finances or about France's wars. Whatever he knew, it was clearly something Louis wanted buried forever. If d'Auger was indeed the masked man, it would make sense. He wasn't royal, he wasn't powerful, but he was dangerous. Not because of who he was, but because of what he knew. And in Louis XIV's France, information could be as lethal as treason. Still, there's something unsatisfying about that explanation, isn't there? It's logical, yes, but not poetic, not mythic. We want the man in the iron mask to mean something, to stand for mystery, injustice, or the dark heart of power. And perhaps that's why the legend persists. Because deep down, we sense that the truth behind the mask, whatever it was, says something timeless about the world itself. The mask is a metaphor as much as a mystery. It's the face that power wears to hide its secrets. It's the silence imposed on those who know too much. It's the idea that in a system built on image, reality must be locked away. That's why the story endures. Not because we still wonder who the man was, but because we recognize what the mask represents. Every age has its own version of it, a symbol of those erased by the powerful, those who vanish so that others can rule unchallenged. In Louis XIV's France, it was a man behind iron bars. In other times, it's been whistleblowers, dissidents, or victims of secrecy and propaganda. The legend still speaks, not from the past, but through it. When the masked prisoner finally died in 1703, the record was closed, his cell emptied, and his story officially erased. But stories like his never really die. They slip through cracks, whispered by guards, copied by clerks, retold by philosophers. And with each retelling, the mask grows thicker, until the truth beneath it becomes impossible to see. 300 years later, we're still looking. And maybe that's the point. The man in the iron mask is not a mystery to be solved. It's a reminder that behind every mask, behind every act of power, there's a human face. One that history may try to hide, but that imagination will always bring back into the light. So, who was he? A traitor? A spy? A brother? A myth? Maybe he was all of them, or none. Maybe the man in the iron mask was never meant to be unmasked. Maybe he was created to remind us that power, by its very nature, thrives on secrecy. And that sometimes, the stories we can't prove are the ones that tell us the most about the world we live in. Thanks for listening to the Empire of Secrets. If this episode sparked your curiosity, leave a like, drop a comment with your theory, and subscribe for new episodes every week. Want more sources or a follow-up deep dive? Tell us in the comments and we'll cover it next. Stay curious and see you in the next episode.